Lil Durk has managed to make his voice heard despite being incarcerated, using music as a powerful medium to deliver a message that's now drawing national attention. With intense legal battles looming and his future hanging in the balance, this latest move could alter the trajectory of the entire case. But the real question remains, what exactly is he saying through this release? Is it a subtle warning, a calculated move to sway public opinion, or simply a way to maintain relevance?
This call is from a federal prison.
Lil Durk's latest album, titled Deep Thoughts, arrived on March 28, 2025, under highly unusual circumstances. Released while the Chicago rapper remains in custody at a Los Angeles correctional facility, awaiting trial on serious federal murder-for-hire charges, the project stands as both a creative outlet and a strategic message. The charges stem from two major cases: the alleged orchestration of a 2022 attack on rival rapper Quando Rondo, and a separate gang-related incident in Chicago.
And, you know what I'm saying, was living in a hellhole and came home and boom. He been King Von, but he became King Von to the world.
Yeah.
So he would have been bigger than Durk because he was moving too fast, too quick.
The 17-track album was recorded entirely through prison phone calls, transforming standard procedure into an unconventional recording process. Captured in a raw, documentary-style mini-film, scenes alternate between news reports about his arrest and producers holding phone lines to studio monitors. With no room for polished production or layered effects, the result is stripped-down, raw audio, deeply minimalist, yet compelling in its delivery. Underneath the melodic hooks and trap-heavy beats, however, lies a much more calculated message.
Durk's son is watching all this. He's trying to get the gun out of her hand. The gun off his hip drops, and the son picks up the gun and shoots him in the stomach.
Deep Thoughts appears designed not only to maintain his fan base, but also to navigate public perception and possibly even influence future legal outcomes. The project is shaped entirely by the looming threat of life imprisonment. Lyrics are self-censored, with any overtly violent or incriminating lines either scrubbed or muted. One such line, leaked in an early version of the track 1,000 times, once featured the phrase, "I'm gonna kill him and I shoot him dead for any child of mine." But that version never made it to the final cut.
This call is from a federal prison.
We in here, we got
Hello,
yeah, it's,
y'all the lab?
we in the studio, we in this motherfucker getting to it, boy. We gonna roll out, got everything.
Censorship also reaches into other tracks like Vanish Mode, where terms like gun and 3 are noticeably silenced. Many believe this isn't about morality, it's about legal strategy. Critics say the sanitization dilutes his signature rawness, especially when compared to earlier, gritty works like 7220's Pissed Me Off or The Voice's Head Taps. Still, others argue the filtering is necessary, pointing out the risks of creating music while federal authorities monitor every word. Songs like Monitoring Me reference surveillance and paranoia, hinting at wiretaps and the ever-present threat of being watched. In contrast, Opportunist frames Durk as a survivor, hardened by betrayal, but careful not to delve into specifics that could incriminate. Feature choices also appear calculated. Future lends credibility to They Wanna Be You, while Jhené Aiko softens the album's edge with her melodic contribution to Can't Hide It, which leans into themes of vulnerability and introspection.
And, you know what I'm saying, was living in a hellhole and came home and boom. He been King Von, but he became King Von to the world.
Yeah.
So he would have been bigger than Durk because he was moving too fast, too quick.
Even the AI-generated album cover avoids direct imagery of prison life. Instead, it features a stylized, shadowy figure behind bars, symbolizing both confinement and artistic control. Durk appears intent on framing his reality without fully exposing it. Reactions to the project have been mixed. Some fans feel disappointed by the album's toned-down nature, missing the brutally honest storytelling that once defined his music. Others, however, see the shift as a necessary evolution considering the stakes. In the eyes of many, Deep Thoughts isn't just an album. It's a legal maneuver, a coded message, and a survival tactic, all wrapped into one. Some listeners have begun to question the shift in tone, asking where the raw intensity of earlier tracks like Moment of Truth has gone, especially considering that song was deeply tied to the murder of his brother. Yet others praise Deep Thoughts as a mature evolution in Lil Durk's artistic arc, highlighting introspective cuts like Notebook, No Hook, where he reflects on fatherhood, grief, and mortality over sparse piano loops and stripped-down production. Leaks only complicated the album's rollout. Tracks like Discontinuing and Walk Hard, along with talk of a scrapped Sabrina Claudio feature, fueled speculation that a more aggressive version of the project was originally planned. The final product, according to many fans, felt rushed, marked by abrupt edits and lyrics that appeared to have been scrubbed clean or cut down last minute. Legal teams, it seems, combed through every verse with fine precision, resulting in jarring bleeps, reworked flows, and noticeable omissions. Despite these creative restraints, loyalists argue that the album's very existence is remarkable. They point out that Durk is battling for his freedom while continuing to deliver new music, calling the effort a grind worthy of respect. Every element of Deep Thoughts appears to serve dual purposes. Tracks centered on loyalty and betrayal, like Think He Loyal, speak simultaneously to both street allegiances and courtroom dynamics, casting Durk as a leader, carefully navigating betrayal on all sides. Elsewhere, songs like Alhamdulillah and Deep Depression shift toward themes of redemption and mental health, shaping a more humanizing portrait of the artist in the public eye. These are not just creative choices, they are carefully tailored to present a more sympathetic image as trial approaches. Even the behind-the-scenes documentary footage plays a key role, portraying Durk as a committed father rather than the criminal mastermind prosecutors claim he is. It's a calculated presentation, one that mirrors legal and public relations strategies seen in other high-profile rap cases. For example, in Young Thug's ongoing RICO trial, carefully timed music releases have helped maintain cultural relevance. Durk's team seems to be following a similar blueprint, using this project to keep streaming numbers up, maintain media attention, and generate public empathy. However, the stakes in Durk's case are significantly higher. With federal murder-for-hire charges on the table, the consequences are severe, possibly resulting in a life sentence if convicted. As a result, Deep Thoughts could either serve as a final artistic statement or the opening chapter of a redemption arc if acquittal is achieved. The album's true legacy hinges on what happens during his October 2025 trial. A conviction would cast Deep Thoughts as a grim farewell, its themes of paranoia and betrayal reframed as eerie foreshadowing. But an acquittal could transform it into an iconic record of resilience, an example of turning pain into purpose under unprecedented pressure. For now, Lil Durk remains suspended between two realities: the streets that defined his rise and a courtroom that could permanently close the chapter on his freedom. While Deep Thoughts continues to generate conversation, the question that still lingers is this: how did the alleged murder-for-hire plot unfold, and how did it lead Lil Durk to this point? In October 2024, the story took a drastic turn. Lil Durk, a Grammy-winning artist and one of hip-hop's most recognized figures, was arrested in Broward County, Florida. Federal authorities charged him with conspiracy to commit murder for hire. The indictment linked him directly to a 2022 shooting in Los Angeles, an incident targeting rapper Quando Rondo that sent shockwaves through the music industry. The origins of this federal case trace back to a violent chain of events stemming from the 2020 death of Lil Durk's close associate and protege, King Von. According to federal prosecutors, the alleged 2022 attack that targeted rapper Quando Rondo was meant as retaliation. However, instead of hitting the intended target, the assault tragically resulted in the death of Rondo's cousin, Savia Lil Pab Robinson, who was riding alongside him. Federal authorities claim the operation was financed through Durk's music collective, Only the Family, OTF, with promises of cash and music industry opportunities allegedly used to incentivize the shooters. These claims are built on deep-rooted tensions between Durk's crew and Rondo's associates, which escalated after King Von was killed in a 2020 altercation with Rondo's entourage outside an Atlanta nightclub. Though charges were later dropped against Rondo's affiliate, federal agents argue that Durk orchestrated a revenge plot that culminated in the 2022 shooting. The prosecution's case is constructed on three primary pillars. The first is financial documentation. Investigators have linked OTF-associated credit cards to the purchase of airline tickets, hotel accommodations, and rental vehicles used by the suspects in the days leading up to the shooting. Flight records further reveal a coordinated timeline showing the alleged assailants traveling from Chicago to Los Angeles, reinforcing claims of a premeditated conspiracy. The second pillar is digital evidence. Prosecutors have amassed over 230 gigabytes of data from intercepted communications, including wiretapped phone calls, encrypted messages, and social media interactions. These materials reportedly contain coded discussions related to the plot, with phrases like "smoke that boy" and "handle business," interpreted as references to violent intent. A 2023 FBI affidavit from an unrelated investigation in Chicago adds to this, alleging that Durk offered financial rewards for retaliation in a separate incident tied to the 2021 murder of his brother, Dante D-Thang Banks. That affidavit was used to justify the court's denial of Durk's bail, painting him as an ongoing threat. The third and most contentious component is witness testimony. Federal court filings mention unnamed cooperators, including at least one individual believed to have been directly involved in the plot, who has since agreed to testify in exchange for leniency. These informants reportedly placed Durk at the center of planning, though the reliability of their testimony remains untested as the trial has yet to begin. Lil Durk now faces extraordinary odds in a federal system where the conviction rate for defendants exceeds 99%. Legal experts point out that conspiracy charges carry significant weight. Even if Durk did not directly participate in the shooting, he could still be held equally liable. Additional charges related to firearm use, including possession of a machine gun during a violent crime, add mandatory minimum sentences to the already serious allegations. Prosecutors have also presented arguments positioning Durk as a flight risk. After the arrest of his associates, authorities uncovered bookings for 3 international flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy, which were never used. This discovery further influenced the decision to keep him in federal custody without bail. The trial, initially scheduled for January 2025, was delayed until October of the same year, with both the prosecution and defense acknowledging the unusually complex nature of the case. Durk's legal team is expected to argue that his name may have been used without direct authorization in financial records, and that the so-called coded messages fall under artistic expression rather than criminal conspiracy. However, the situation became more complicated with the unsealing of court documents detailing a second alleged murder-for-hire plot, this time in Chicago. Though Durk has not been formally charged in that case, prosecutors presented it as part of a pattern of retaliatory behavior. They cite a series of text messages referencing payments for the killing of Stephen Mack, a known gangster disciples figure. This secondary narrative could be a critical factor in how jurors perceive the scope and intent behind Durk's alleged actions. The inclusion of multiple cases, complex digital trails, and witness testimony means the upcoming trial could have lasting consequences for Durk's future, not just as a musician, but as a public figure facing some of the most severe allegations in modern hip-hop history. If Lil Durk accepts a plea deal, he may protect his future, but risk alienating a core segment of his audience. In a culture where loyalty and strength are deeply valued, such a move could be interpreted as weakness, or worse, betrayal. On the other hand, choosing to fight the charges and losing in court could cement his legacy in the streets as someone who stood his ground, regardless of the cost. Federal conspiracy cases often rely on cooperation from co-defendants. Prosecutors commonly offer reduced sentences to lower-level individuals in exchange for their testimony. If any of the alleged OTF affiliates or accused shooters testify against Durk, the legal strategy becomes increasingly complex. A single claim linking Durk directly to the plot could dismantle the entire defense, while simultaneously sparking tension and safety concerns within the rapper's inner circle. His legacy now hangs in the balance. A conviction would place him alongside other artists who lived and died by the streets they rapped about, including figures like King Von and FBG Duck. An acquittal, however rare, would redefine him as a survivor, positioning him as a cultural symbol of resistance against systemic prosecution and legal overreach. Durk's impact on the Chicago drill scene adds another layer to the situation. As one of the genre's most visible representatives, a conviction could slow the movement's mainstream momentum. Still, emerging talents like Lil Zay Osama and C. Honcho may carry the sound forward. Conversely, if the trial drags on, it may further mythologize Durk, making him a larger-than-life figure in hip-hop folklore. While federal murder-for-hire charges can, in theory, carry the death penalty, such outcomes are extremely rare. Since 1988, only 16 federal executions have taken place. Given Durk's limited criminal history and the circumstantial nature of the evidence, that outcome remains unlikely. But the mere existence of that possibility illustrates the seriousness of what's at stake. As October 2025 approaches, Lil Durk stands at a critical crossroads. He must weigh the risks of legal defeat against the cost of diminished credibility. A plea could preserve his future, but fracture his public image. A trial could secure his legend, but end in permanent confinement. All while whispers of a broader RICO investigation loom in the background, threatening to engulf more of his crew. What began as music born from pain and survival may now become a final chapter in a much larger story. Until the court delivers its verdict, Durk's fate remains in limbo, caught between freedom, legacy, and the full force of federal prosecution. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for ongoing coverage of this case and more developments in the world of hip-hop. Tap the screen now to check out more deep dives from the channel.